Hello and welcome to a video on the Planet Zach YouTube channel. You have stumbled upon my Halloween special. I am recording it about a month in advance, so it will be ready to go whenever I decide to post it. In this video, I will tell you a little bit of an interesting fact about myself, and I will use that as the jumping off point for a bit of a dive into the horror side of video games and video game media. Although some of the topics I'm going to be covering are generally geared toward more mature audiences, I will try to keep this video suitable for all ages, and I will not show any graphic images or gameplay footage. I won't be showing any gameplay footage, to be honest, and pretty much the only thing you're going to see for this entire video is this little background that I've created. So I hope you enjoy it. Anyways, let's get into the video. I'm going to tell you why I personally cannot do haunted houses or haunted theme park attractions. The answer is pretty simple: jump scares. I can handle any number of creepy or disturbing scenes being laid out before me, anything of that nature, but the moment you hit me with a jump scare, it activates my fight or flight response. I literally almost hit a person at the only haunted theme park I've ever been to. My local theme park does a Halloween overlay every year, and in the evenings they do haunted theme park attractions. Some of them you enter a building and you go through it and get treated to spooky scenes and actors jumping out at you and things of that nature. Some of them, it's harder to tell whether it's an attraction or not, so it's harder to prepare yourself for being scared by things like this. Two notable incidents happened this evening. One, I was walking from one attraction to another, and a person, cast member or otherwise, on two occasions got behind me and was about to scare me. The first time it worked. The second time my dad pointed the person out to me and I spoiled it. So I ruined the fun for him. But there was another incident where I was in an open air section of the park that was apparently an attraction, and a guy comes up behind me and scares me. I literally almost hit him with my fist. So yeah, I found out that evening that it's not a good idea for me to go to theme parks. I don't know if anything like that would ever happen again, but it's pretty safe to say that if you want to get me, a jump scare is the way to do it. And in all honesty, it's one of the cheapest type of scares there is. I find psychological horror to be a lot more effective than jump scares. That's not to say that everything with jump scares is bad, it's just to say it's a more shallow level of fear than anything psychological. You can make just about anything scary if you play a loud enough noise while you show it to somebody very quickly. That's all a jump scare is. And frankly, it's a bit more shallow of a scare to me. One of the most popular horror franchises, Five Nights at Freddy's, has done well with jump scare horror. And I would actually argue that it's not as shallow as it seems, because as you can see just by looking at YouTube channels that cover this game and this franchise, there's a lot more lore to it than just the jump scares. But because the horror is so surface level at first glance, it's able to be picked up by people of all ages. A lot of horror franchises have spawned movies. One of these would be Resident Evil. I've seen the first two movies from that franchise out of order. The first one documents how a group of survivors of a zombie outbreak managed to survive in the city that's being overtaken by zombies, but ultimately the outbreak is covered up by the Umbrella Corporation. Kind of a corporation bad, people good situation. I liked the first one a lot better when I saw it. One of the first scenes, the elevator scene, has really stuck with me over the years. I do not recommend watching it if you have any fear of elevators. Then a later scene in the movie, the laser hallway scene, is also very impactful. Those scenes stick with me to this day. Another horror game that I know has been pretty popular recently is Doki Doki Literature Club. I personally watched a few playthroughs of that, and I, having been in a mental space similar to one of its characters, saw the first initial twist that brings about the horror elements of an otherwise more visual novel dating simulation style game. The inciting incident, if you will, that brings about the horror elements did not surprise me. However, the second twist that comes at the end is a lot more nuanced, and I think the whole thing is very well done. So that's just my general thoughts on horror and a couple of horror games that I've seen over the years. I haven't played either of those games, and I haven't played Five Nights at Freddy's or any of its subsequent sequels, but you can do a lot with horror. So I hope that gives you a better idea of how I feel about horror and ultimately explains why I can't go to theme parks that have horror actors in them, because it's a little bit less controlled than sitting at your own home watching a horror flick or sitting on your couch playing a horror game. There's too many variables involved in it for me, and I just don't want it to end badly for anybody. Anyways, I love Halloween regardless. It's one of my favorite times of year, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.